everyone! I got an interesting video for you all today. I think I shouldn't have to explain too much when I say I love Fall Out Boy. I think I've stated this on my channel like quite a few times already, but recently I decided to re-listen to the discography once again, and I realized that I've talked about liking this band. I've never really went into detail about their music and really shared my thoughts about each album. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. But before I start, I want to mention a few things. Obviously, I can't play the music or else YouTube will strike down upon me, and nobody wants that. I will in addition have a link to a playlist so you can listen to the music while I talk about it, or you can do it after the video, whatever piques your fancy there. And secondly, I will only be mostly talking about the studio albums. You'll see what I mean by this in a second, but anyway, to spice things up a bit, I also thought I'd do a little tier list. Since while I did do one a while back, I kind of want to make a more official one. So with that being said, I will be ranking each album after I talk about it. So yeah, okay, this intro is getting too long, so let's go on to the first album. Okay, so actually, I'm going to give you brief details on who Fall Out Boy is before we actually start. Fun little direct from Wikipedia, because I wrote this part of the script after I did the entirety of the thing, and I forgot to do this part, and now I'm lazy, and I don't want to be original and write something new, so here you go. Anyway, Fall Out Boy is a American rock band formed in Willamette, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago in 2001. The band consists of lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist Patrick Stump, bassist Pete Wentz, lead guitarist Joe Troman, and drummer Andy Hartley. The band originated from Chicago's hardcore punk scene and was formed by Wentz and Troman as a pop-punk side project. Stump joined shortly thereafter. The group went through a succession of drummers before Hartley joined. Their debut album, Take This to Your Grave, we'll get to, was released in 2003, became an underground success and helped the band gain a dedicated fan base through heavy touring. So yeah, that's a little bit of detail on the band, so now I can get to the actual video. Alright, and for the first album, I will be discussing Take This to Your... Nope! I want to go from the very beginning. That being Evening Out with Your Girlfriend, which is what I was referring to before about official studio album type of thing, since this technically does not count, but anyway. This was released on March 25th, 2003. Happy anniversary to that, by the way. There's going to be a lot of anniversaries to these, but I'll just mention this one for now. The backstory for this album is quite interesting since it was actually never supposed to be released, like, at all. The band, which didn't have the full lineup that we know today, aka the drummer, as they were referring to before, that they went through many different drummers, they recorded this album in September 2002 with Uprising Records. After they finished, they weren't quite happy with how the album turned out, and they canceled its release. However, Uprising Records released the album anyway, against the band's wishes. Even more interesting is the company re-released a remaster version after From Under the Cork Tree did well, which we will get to that album, don't worry. After many years of the album not really being talked about except for like diehard fans, I guess, it was finally released on Spotify in 2022. Why did I say it like that? Don't ask. Anyway. Okay, that was a lot of info, I know, but I wanted to give context before we dive right in. So this album has 9 songs on it, and well, yeah, you can kind of see why they didn't want to release it. That's not me saying it's bad, just pretty rough sounding. But I also think it gives it like some kind of charm to the album, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a small beginnings type of vibe. You gotta start somewhere. Though I 100% understand why they decided not to release it, or at least wanted to release it, I should say, as they probably wanted more professional sound if they really wanted to get off the ground. To the point that they redone a couple of songs for Take This to Your Grave. Well, okay, only one song, but whatever, which was Calm Before the Storm. Which, yeah, I will say the Take This to Your Grave version is way better, as it's just much more punchy than the original. They also went back and redid Growing Up before their greatest hits album, Believe Us Never Die Volume 1, but otherwise, the sound of the other songs are not that bad. If they redid this whole album, honestly, I think they would have gold. But anyway, I think my favorites off this album are Pretty in Punk, Short, Fast, and Loud, which that is me to be honest. Anyway, I think these are just the catchiest to me, especially Pretty in Punk, which, in all honesty, I think would be the best one to redo out of all of the tracks in my opinion. But anyway, I think it's time to rank this album, which I think if it's a C, the best. It's not bad, but it definitely needs a more polished sound to be, like, higher. But now, let us move on to the actual first album, at least to the band's opinion, which is Take This to Your Grave. This album was released on May 6, 2003, under Fueled by Ramen, which are pretty well known back in the day for a lot of your favorite pop punk / emo bands like Paramore, Jimmy Eat World, Panic at the Disco, and many more. Literally, you could just look up the company and you'll see. This is the first time we have the full proper lineup as Andy Hurley as the drummer. This is the lineup for all the albums moving on. This album has 12 songs, making a full album compared to the last one, which is 9. And I will say, for this being an official starting album, they did fairly well here. Compared to the last one, this one just feels like it's got more heart to it. Like they really wanted to take this seriously and go all the way making music as a career. I still got that starting sound vibe from it, but like it's much more polished and the writing is just done better as well. As I mentioned before, Calm Before the Storm makes a comeback on this album, but just more powerful sounding. You can really hear the difference to when you hear Pete's scream in both versions. Like he just sounds much more in your face, or in your ear in this case, in the new album. Definitely one of my favorites off the album, as well as Saturday and Grand Theft Autumn, Where's Your Boy? Both of these were the singles for the album. Honestly, I have so many favorites. It's just so hard to pick just one. But if I had to, I definitely say Chicago So 2 Years Ago, but just listen to this album. It's such a fantastic one. But yeah, anyway. Overall, to rank this album, I give it a B. It's just really good, and it's just a great proper start to the career. Up next, we have From Under the Cork Tree, which has 13 songs on the album this time. The album is pretty important one because, to start off, it's what got them off the ground. And secondly, there's a personal reason behind it, which I'll get to in a bit. But first, the album came out on May 3rd, 2005, under Island Records. This will be the record label up until their most recent album, so if I don't mention the label for a while, that is exactly why. As I mentioned before, this album really got them this skyrocket to stardom. And honestly, you can see why. This album just has banger after banger. They really got their footing here with how they wanted to sound and how they wanted to write their music. Before this point, it was both Pete Wentz and Patrick Stump that were doing the writing for the albums, but now it's only just Pete, and it's definitely an interesting tone shift as you can really see into his mind when it comes to his writing style. This is not me saying that Patrick is bad, it's just that like I've seen more of Pete's style and you can kind of just tell the tone shift. It's very interesting. So this album is also important as it is super nostalgic for me. I grew up listening From Under the Cork Tree so many times, I've lost count, legitimately. I know every song by heart, not the titles though. Look, come on. You're gonna tell me you want me to memorize those long titles? They're ridiculous. I think there's just albums out there you just pick up and say they're great because they just, have the vibe. But sometimes I think there's that little extra spice in there that just makes them really special, and obviously it's the nostalgic for me that like just makes it just the best album to me. I mean, geez, I have a hard time just picking a song off of this. There's so many. I mean, I can mention Dance Dance and Sugar We're Going Down, but those are obvious picks as those are the singles that are like the most popular off this album, if not the most popular for Fall Out Boy, period. I think though, if I had to pick, I say Sophomore Slump or Comeback for the Year, EXO, and all the Jin joins in the world. But honestly, I just say all of them are my favorite because the list just changes all the time, which ones that I just genuinely enjoy. But yeah, okay, this section is getting like way too long, so let's rank this album. It's an S. It's such a great album, and again, the nostalgia is helping there as well. But yeah, definitely S for sure. And here we are with the third studio album, which is Infinity on High. The album was released on February 6, 2007. It has 14 songs on it, and yeah, I think there's a tiny elephant in the room when I say this, because I know some people are going to be like, wait, I thought there was 2 more tracks. There are, but they're bonus tracks originally, which they came from the UK, Australia, New Zealand versions, amongst other regions, but those are the ones that have like the 2 on there. They are now on Spotify, like completely in general, so that's probably why you probably know it that way. And I also skipped over the deluxe version From Under the Cork Tree because I plan to do a little bonus / deluxe track section of the video. So no, I didn't forget to talk about them, we just haven't gotten there yet. So be patient. So yeah, this album is really interesting as they experimented a bit with their sound for Infinity on High. They have, the rock sound still, of course, but they dabbled a bit in a bit of pop. So more pop in their punk, as it were.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, it still has the Fall Out Boy charm to it, as the songs on this album are fun in general. Also, something to note, I recently learned about the whole Mikey Way and Pete Wentz situation a bit, and this album has a lot of songs that talk about Mikey. I'm bringing this up now because I know someone's gonna comment asking why I didn't mention it, since one of my favorite songs off the album, is Bang the Doldrums. Also, fun fact, this also ended up in Shrek 3. It's true, there's a tweet out there from Pete that said this, so I'm not making this up. I'll put it up on screen. But yeah, this is not the video for it. But if some reason you guys want me to cover this odd topic in a different one, let me know. Yeah, so my other favorites off this album are You're Crashing But You're No Wave and Thanks for the Memories, the good old classic single. Again, another album that is just hard to choose songs for, but let's just rank this. So I say an A for this one, it's good, and the way they experimented for this album just gives it such an interesting sound that we pretty much continue to see with like the Fall Out Boy of today, so it's pretty important. And on to the fourth album we go, Foliate X, or however you want to pronounce this. I don't know, I'm pronouncing it this way because I'm American. Anyway, that's not a good thing to say. So, this album is special for a couple reasons, but I'm gonna go for the basics first. The album was released on December 10th, 2008, and it has 13 tracks on it. So, this album is really important as they moved away from the emo sounds that the fans were used to. Even though Infinity High was experimental as well, but here it was such a drastic tone shift. It has a mixture of many genres that still stay mostly in the rock tone, but however, at the time of the release, many fans did not like the new change in sound, like, at all. It was this, as well as other personal issues within the band, that they decided to take a break from making music under Fall Out Boy. This would be where fans would distinguish between pre-hiatus and versus post-hiatus, not only from the time that they were gone, of course, but from the sound change that we will get to very soon. But good news is that now fans really like this album. So much to the effect that, like, they compare this album specifically to what they do now, which is, whatever you want to take that as. It's, yeah. But what do I think? I never really grew up much with this album except for the two singles, I Don't Care and America's Sweethearts. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school I fully listened to this album, and man, I wished I did sooner. Even if I was gonna be that kid that was gonna be stuck up about this is not the Fall Out Boy I know, you know, but maybe it's a good thing I got into it later then, as I had the recent stuff to compare to it now for, you know, a reference. So I wouldn't have been as so critical about it, like I said, when the fans heard it the first time back in the day. I think in a way, this album is like one of their magnum opuses, though, for sure. It's so well written, a lot of fun cameos from this, like Brendan Urie from Panic, and even Lil Wayne made it like a little featurette in this album, which is nuts for me to say. And it's such a refreshing sound, as it's a bit more poppy, but it's not like mainstream pop. It's unique, and it's such a shame that people were not ready for it at the time. I think my favorites off this album was West Coast Smoker, Whams, and 27. But honestly, this album is so good in general. Like, if I was gonna say, like, you needed to listen to, like, a Fall Out Boy album, this is the one, for sure. But with that, we're gonna rank it now. Rank it? Anyway, rank this, which is, it's an S. It's a definite S. All-time favorite, for sure. So with that, let's move on to the next era of Fall Out Boy. So we are now on to the next era of Fall Out Boy, that being post-hiatus Fall Out Boy, as it's mostly called. What a riveting name, I know. Anyway, a time where everyone would say, man, I miss the old Fall Out Boy. And while at times I did feel this way, which album from this era time made me feel like this? I'll give you a hint now, it's not this one, thankfully. Say Rock and Roll came out on April 12th, 2013, after a 4-year hiatus from the band, as I stated before. The album has 11 tracks and features quite a few famous artists on some of the songs like Courtney Love, Elton John, and many more. The sound of the album is a bit different, again, but not like Foliate X was. This one has a more modern rock kind of vibe, as they went away from the super experimental stuff and stuck to a more generic rock sound. Just listen to a lot of rock from the early 2010s and you will see what I mean. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's not quite what we were seeing from them before the hiatus. But the album is good enough, as I do enjoy a lot of the songs on it, my favorites being The Phoenix, Where Did the Party Go, and Miss Missing You. I think this was a sign, though, that the band wanted to head more toward a common mainstream sound, as I think they were trying to focus on more radio play. But for now, it still feels in the vein of Fall Out Boy, at least, just with a new coat of paint. With that, I will say I will rank this as a B, as it's good, but the change is quite a bit noticeable here. Whether that's a bad thing or a good thing is to whoever listens to this album as a fan. And I also just realized I never mentioned what number studio album that we were on for the last one. So the last one is 5, but we are now on to the 6th one, American Beauty, American Psycho, which came out on January 6, 2015, and has 11 tracks on it. I think out of their discography, this is, I think, the most singles that I'd say a good amount of people know. Other than from Under the Cork Tree, of course. I think the amount of radio play this album got was crazy. Almost everywhere you went when the album came out, even actually before, there was always a few songs from this one that played all the time. Centuries being the most played, I would say. Immortals is also in Big Hero 6, which also helped get more modern listeners into Fall Out Boy. This album was, I say, important for them, as I think they finally really got like big radio play, other than Dance Dance Restoring and Going Down Swinging, of course. People knew who Fall Out Boy were for the first time that was outside in the pop punk / emo scene. And while fans were already split for Save Rock and Roll, I think the people who already didn't like the change just didn't even bother to stick around for this album. However, I think those who did got a pretty decent album. While it's not perfect, I think they did something right, as, like I said, it did pretty well. I think it's a fun album in general just to listen to. I think out of the post-hiatus stuff that I go back to, this is the one that, like, I go to a lot. Of course, not including the new album, which we'll get to. It's a good, like, sounding vibe, and they have a lot of interesting tracks to listen to. I like Favorite Record, 4th of July, and Novocaine, as they all show the diversity of this album for sure. It's not Fall Out Boy, but for going with the mono route, they didn't do all that bad, to be honest. That's why I think an A fits for this one. I like it, and like I said, I go back to this one quite often. Now we're on to the 7th album, which came out on January 19th, 2018. Which is Mania, I should say. That's the title of this album. I totally forgot to mention that before going further. Anyway, so this album has 10 songs on it, and the album got delayed originally, actually, as it was supposed to come out September 15th of 2017, but it was pushed back as the band wanted more time to finish up the album. But I'm gonna be very honest here. This is my least favorite album by the band. Before everyone rushes in the comments a feud about old Fall Out Boy versus new Fall Out Boy, because this is definitely the album that did it, I want to say I don't hate this album, but I have a lot of problems with it. I think out of the post-hiatus albums, this one feels the most commercial to me, but not in a good way like American Beauty, American Psycho did. The album as a whole just feels very soulless to me, and just never quite sits right with me. I like most of the songs off the album, but I don't love them like the rest of their discography. Like, Hold Me Tighter, Don't is good, as well as Last of the Real Ones, Stay Frosty, Royal Milk Tea, and Bishop Night Trick. I do go back to the songs on their own, but going through the album is rough for me, which sucks, as I try to understand and try to find love for this album, but I just can't. I can go all day about which aspects of the album I don't like, but people have already done that, and I don't really have anything else to add to the list. And honestly, I don't think I need to. It's already been done. It's way old at this point. I guess the last thing I will say, though, is whether you're a fan of the old Fall Out Boy or the new Fall Out Boy, or you just like whatever they make, you don't have a preference, we don't really need to fight at this point in the comments of which version of them is better. As whatever you want to listen to, just listen to it. We live in a world where literally you can just listen to whatever the music you want, anytime you want. So just don't fight. Sorry, but I'm making this as a D. I don't hate the album enough to put it in F, but as I said, I have a hard time listening to the album as a whole, so sorry for those who like this album. Okay, we're getting close to the end with talking about the albums. So with that, this is their 8th album, and it came out on March 23rd, 2023. And the record label this time around is Fueled by Ramen, just like at the beginning. And yeah, 5 years before we got another album. Like, sure, we got a single or two with Believers Never Die Volume 2, but pretty much this is the longest since the hiatus of the new album. I mean, a lot happened between then, the biggest being COVID, which is mentioned a couple of times throughout the album, which how could it not be? Because, like, events and just history. And of course, as I mentioned before, with the reception of Mania, they really needed to think about how they wanted to go about making this one. But before the album's release, Joe Trollman, who's the guitarist for the band, made an announcement saying that he was going to take a step back from the band to focus on his mental health, which honestly, such a great thing that like he admitted that and decided to do that. It's really hard to, especially in this day and age, to just admit that you need to take a step back from music and stuff, as a lot of people get really hissy-fitty about it. But honestly, yeah, I hope he's doing well. So with that, how did the album do? Was it the comeback they needed, or did all the work for those 5 years end for naught? Well, all I would say is this is the best album since post-hiatus, as a lot of other fans have stated as well. Honestly, many people have said this, but this is truly what people expected to come out after Fully Deluxe if they didn't take a break. It's such a perfect mixture of a lot of genres: pop, rock, orchestratic, funk, and just more. This album is just fun to listen to, and the writing is deep at times, but it doesn't get too depressing to listen to, actually. In that one part in SpongeBob where he gets obsessed with the success, quote-unquote, of the Krusty Krab commercial, when SpongeBob finally makes a Krabby Patty, one fish says,
"That's what we've been waiting for!
It's what we wanted all along!"
And my god, they really delivered on that front with this album. It was really hard to choose which songs, but my favorites are Love from the Other Side, the single, Hold Me Like a Grudge, Another One, and I Am My Own Muse. But yeah, this is getting such a long video at this point, so I'm gonna rank this one quickly, and then we're gonna get on to like the extra stuff. So, S. This is an S. I can't rank it anything else. This is just a superb album. It's S. But anyway, let us move on to the extra stuff. So now we're on to the last part of this video, which is me talking about the bonus / deluxe / like exclusive tracks. Pretty much stuff from the deluxe version of the albums and some from the greatest hits album that I'm going to talk about, like individual songs I should say. I'm going to try to fly through this as quickly as I can since this is already long enough video as it is, so here we go. Up first is from Under the Court Tree, which has 3 bonus tracks: Snitches and Talkers, Get Stitches and Walkers, The Music Road to Misery, and My Heart is the Worst Kind of Weapon demo. I think my favorite out of the 3 is Snitches and Talkers. Next up is Infinity on High, which has 2 from the Australian / New Zealand horror edition version. Those is Gnathis, which is the synonym, or the acronym, whatever you want to call it, is gay is not a synonym for shitty. Not kidding. Anyway, and it's hard to say that I do when I don't. I think Gnathis, as I'm going to pronounce it, I don't care. I'm not going to do the whole letter thing. It's my favorite out of the 2, this batch. Then we have Fully Deluxe, which only counts of recent times since for this, the original version didn't have this song, and it's only for the anniversary version, but I don't care. I love this song, and that is Pavlov. I think it's just one of my favorite Fall Out Boy songs, just period, to be honest, and this is just a demo, really, so that's interesting. Anyway, then we have the first greatest hits, Believers Never Die Volume 1, which has 5. Those are Beat It, the Michael Jackson cover, Alpha Dog, From Now On We're Enemies, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, and Growing Up. I'll pick 2 since this has a couple, so From Now On We're Enemies and You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, which is dark but a good Christmas song. Then we skip ahead quite a bit to their second greatest hits album, which only has 3 this time, I've Been Waiting, which is a collab with I Love Mekanin. I hope I pronounced that right. My apologies. And using Little Pete's vocals that he had recorded for the song before tragically passing in 2017. Then we have Dear Future Self, Hands Up, and finally Bob Dylan, which Bob Dylan is the favorite out of the 3. And finally we have, for the most recent album, So Much for the Stardust, which has 1 this time, and that being a cover of We Didn't Start the Fire, originally done by Billy Joel. Which, I'm not a fan of the original, but I think the cover is good. But holy moly, that was a lot. Luckily we're at the end, so let us get on to the outro for this too long of a video. And there you go. That is my ranking, opinion, talking about, breaking down, whatever you want to call this video, of all the Fall Out Boy albums. Now, I know, like I said, I didn't go into every single album because technically these are not all the albums. Again, I said studio albums and I made an exception for 1, but like for the most part, these are just the ones that you need to know about. These are like, the definition of like Fall Out Boy kind of thing. But I had a really fun time doing this. This was very interesting. I've not done really much of like music stuff before, and I wanted to like try experimenting with it since, why not? I've been trying to figure out what I've been wanting to do with my channel, what other stuff I've been doing. This sort of goes into like nostalgia category for me, since, like I said, I've listened to this band since I was like a kid, like a little kid, so like I've always loved this band, and I've always had just an, I don't know, appreciation for them, I guess is the thing. So yeah, this was fun. I had a good time, and I hope you all enjoyed it too. Let me know if you want me to do this with like any other bands that I like, or maybe bands that I've not really heard much about before, but you know, maybe I might want to get into and share my own opinions on that journey. Who knows? Again, if you want me to talk about the whole weird Mike Away and Pete Wentz thing, let me know, because yeah, weird, and again, its own video entirely. And even Gus said he might want to join in on that whole rabbit hole thing, so that would be, you know, a little extra reason maybe to do it. But anyway, with that, I'm gonna wrap this up, because again, it's a decently long video. So yeah, anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you liked it, like; if you dislike it, again, comment below your thoughts. If you want me to do this again, and with what band and whatnot, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So bye, guys.